Java 8 plus features 116. What are Lambda expressions? Answer. Anonymous functions that can be used to implement functional interfaces concisely. 117. What are functional interfaces? Answer. Interfaces with exactly one abstract method can be implemented using Lambda expressions. 118. What is the Stream API? Answer. API for processing collections in a functional style, supporting operations like filter, map, reduce. 119. What's the difference between intermediate and terminal operations? Answer. Intermediate. Return streams, lazy evaluation, filter, map, sorted. Terminal. Return non-stream results, trigger evaluation, collect, for each, reduce. 120. What are method references? Answer. Shorthand for Lambda expressions that call existing methods. Operator. 121. What are default methods in interfaces? Answer. Methods with implementation in interfaces, allowing interface evolution without breaking existing implementations. 122. What are static methods in interfaces? Answer. Utility methods that belong to the interface, called using interface name. 123. What is optional class? Answer. Container that may or may not contain a value, helps avoid null pointer exception. 124. What are the new date and time APIs? Answer. Java.time package with local date, local time, local date time, zone to date time for better date/time handling. 125. What is the for each method? Answer. Method to iterate over collections using Lambda expressions or method references. 126. What are collectors? Answer. Utility class providing common reduction operations for streams. To list, to set, grouping by. 127. What is parallel stream? Answer. Stream that can be processed in parallel using multiple threads for better performance. 128. What is the difference between map and flat map? Answer. Map transforms each element to another object. Flat map transforms each element to a stream and flattens the result. 129. What are predicates? Answer. Functional interface representing Boolean valued functions, commonly used in filtering. 130. What is the difference between collection.stream and collection.parallel stream? Answer. Stream. Sequential processing. Parallel stream. Parallel processing using multiple threads. Design patterns. 131. What are design patterns? Answer. Reusable solutions to common problems in software design, providing templates for solving recurring design problems. 132. What is singleton pattern? Answer. Ensures only one instance of a class exists and provides global access to it. 133. How to implement thread-safe singleton? Answer. Using synchronized methods, double-checked locking, or enum-based implementation. 134. What is factory pattern? Answer. Creates objects without specifying exact classes, using a factory method to decide which class to instantiate. 135. What is abstract factory pattern? Answer. Provides interface for creating families of related objects without specifying their concrete classes. 136. What is builder pattern? Answer. Constructs complex objects step by step, separating construction from representation. 137. What is observer pattern? Answer. Defines one-to-many dependency between objects, notifying dependence when subject changes. 138. What is strategy pattern? Answer. Defines family of algorithms, encapsulates each one, and makes them interchangeable. 139. What is command pattern? Answer. Encapsulates requests as objects, allowing parameterization and queuing of requests. 140. What is template method pattern? Answer. Defines skeleton of algorithm in base class, letting subclasses override specific steps. 141. What is adapter pattern? Answer. Allows incompatible interfaces to work together by wrapping existing class with new interface. 142. What is decorator pattern? Answer. Adds new functionality to objects dynamically without altering their structure. 143. What is facade pattern? Answer. Provides simplified interface to complex subsystem, hiding its complexity. 144. What is proxy pattern? Answer. Provides placeholder or surrogate for another object to control access to it. 145. What is MVC pattern? Answer. Separates application into model data, view presentation, and controller logic components. Spring Framework. 146. What is Spring Framework? Answer. Comprehensive framework for enterprise Java development, providing infrastructure support for developing Java applications. 147. What are the main features of Spring? Answer. Dependency injection, aspect-oriented programming, transaction management, MVC framework, data access integration. 148. What is dependency injection? Answer. Design pattern where dependencies are injected into objects rather than created by them, promoting loose coupling. 149. What are different types of dependency injection? Answer. Constructor injection, setter injection, field injection. 150. What is inversion of control? IOC. Answer. Principle where control of object creation and lifecycle is transferred from application code to framework. 151. What is Spring IOC container? Answer. Core of Spring framework that manages object creation, configuration, and lifecycle. 152. What's the difference between Bean Factory and application context? Answer. Bean Factory, basic container, lazy initialization, application context, advanced container, eager initialization, additional features. 153. What are Spring Bean scopes? Answer. Singleton, single instance per container, prototype, new instance per request, request, per HTTP request, session, per HTTP session, global session, per global HTTP session. 154. What is Spring Boot? Answer. Opinionated framework that simplifies Spring application development with auto-configuration and embedded servers. 155. What are Spring Boot starters? Answer. Pre-configured dependency descriptors that simplify Maven/Gradle configuration. 156. What is auto-configuration in Spring Boot? Answer. Feature that automatically configures Spring application based on dependencies and class path. 157. What is Spring MVC? Answer. Web framework based on model view controller pattern for building web applications. 158. What is Dispatcher Servlet? Answer. Front controller that handles all HTTP requests and dispatches them to appropriate handlers. 159. What are Spring annotations? Answer. Metadata that provides configuration information at component, at service, at repository, at controller, at autowired, at qualifier, at value, at request mapping, at get mapping, at post mapping. 160. What is aspect-oriented programming, AOP? Answer. Programming paradigm that allows separation of cross-cutting concerns like logging, security, transactions. 161. What are Spring profiles? Answer. Way to segregate application configuration for different environments, dev, test, prod. 162. What is Spring Data JPA? Answer. Framework that simplifies data access layer implementation using JPA. 163. What is Spring Security? Answer. Comprehensive security framework providing authentication and authorization capabilities. 164. What is Spring Transaction Management? Answer. Framework for managing database transactions declaratively or programmatically. 165. What is transactional annotation? Answer. Declarative transaction management annotation that handles transaction boundaries automatically. Database and JPA. 166. What is JPA? Answer. Java Persistence API, specification for managing relational data using object relational mapping. 167. What is Hibernate? Answer. Popular JPA implementation, providing ORM capabilities for Java applications. 168. What is the difference between JPA and Hibernate? Answer. JPA, specification/interface. Hibernate, implementation of JPA specification. 169. What is entity in JPA? Answer. Plain Java object that represents a table in database, annotated with @entity. 170. What are JPA annotations? Answer. @entity, @table, @ID, @generated value, @column, @join column, @one-to-many, @many-to-one, @many-to-many, @one-to-one. 171. What is Entity Manager? Answer. Interface for interacting with persistence context, managing entity lifecycle. 172. What is persistence context? Answer. Set of managed entity instances associated with Entity Manager. 173. What are entity states in JPA? Answer. New transient, not associated with persistence context. Managed/persistent, associated with persistence context. Detached. Previously managed but no longer associated. Removed. Marked for deletion. 174. What is the difference between save and persist? Answer. Save, Hibernate method, returns generated ID. Persist, JPA method, void return type. 175. What is lazy loading versus eager loading? Answer. Lazy, data loaded on demand. Eager, data loaded immediately with parent entity. 176. What is N+1 problem? Answer. Performance issue, where one query for main entities triggers N additional queries for related entities. 177. How to solve N+1 problem? Answer. Use join fetch queries. Use at batch size annotation. Use entity graphs. Use proper fetch strategies. 178. What is JPQL? Answer. Java Persistence Query Language, object-oriented query language for JPA entities. 179. What is Criteria API? Answer. Programmatic way to create type-safe queries using Java code instead of strings. 180. What is the difference between JPQL and SQL? Answer. JPQL, object-oriented, works with entities. SQL, relational, works with tables. 181. What are named queries? Answer. Predefined queries with names, defined using @named query annotation. 182. What is connection pooling? Answer. Technique to reuse database connections, improving performance by avoiding connection creation overhead. 183. What is transaction isolation? Answer. Property that defines how transaction changes are visible to other transactions. 184. What are different isolation levels? Answer. Read_uncommitted. Lowest isolation, allows dirty reads. Read_committed. Prevents dirty reads. Repeatable_read. Prevents dirty and non-repeatable reads. Serializable. Highest isolation prevents all phenomena. 185. What is optimistic versus pessimistic locking? Answer. Optimistic. Assumes conflicts are rare, checks at commit time. Pessimistic. Assumes conflicts are common, locks immediately. Testing. 186. What is unit testing? Answer. Testing individual components or modules in isolation to ensure they work correctly. 187. What is JUnit? Answer. Popular Java testing framework for writing and running unit tests with annotations like @test, @before, @after. 188. What are JUnit annotations? Answer. @test, marks test method. @before each, runs before each test. @after each, runs after each test. @before class / @before all, runs once before all tests. @after class / @after all, runs once after all tests. 189. What is Mockito? Answer. Mocking framework for creating mock objects in unit tests, allowing isolation of code under test. 190. What's the difference between @mock and @spy? Answer. @mock creates mock object, all methods return default values. @spy creates spy object, real methods are called unless stubbed. 191. What is integration testing? Answer. Testing interaction between integrated components or systems to detect interface defects. 192. What is TestNG? Answer. Testing framework inspired by JUnit, with additional features like parallel execution, data providers, and flexible test configuration. 193. What is the difference between JUnit and TestNG? Answer. JUnit, simpler, annotation-based, good for unit testing. TestNG, more features, parallel execution, better for integration testing. 194. What is test-driven development? TDD. Answer. Development approach where tests are written before code, following red-green refactor cycle. 195. What is behavior-driven development? BDD. Answer. Extension of TDD, focusing on behavior specification using natural language constructs. 196. What are test doubles? Answer. Objects that replace real dependencies in tests. Mock, stub, spy, fake, dummy. 197. What is code coverage? Answer. Metric measuring percentage of code executed during testing, includes line, branch, and method coverage. 198. What is parameterized testing? Answer. Running same test with different input parameters, supported by @parameterized test in JUnit 5. 199. What is Spring Bootist? Answer. Annotation for integration testing in Spring Boot applications, loads full application context. 200. What is Web MVC test? Answer. Annotation for testing Spring MVC controllers in isolation, loads only web layer components. Performance and optimization. 201. How to optimize Java application performance? Answer. Use appropriate data structures. Optimize algorithms. Profile and identify bottlenecks. Minimize object creation. Use connection pooling. Implement caching. 202. What is JVM tuning? Answer. Adjusting JVM parameters to optimize performance, including heap size, garbage collection settings, and compiler options. 203. What are important JVM parameters? Answer. Kinglines -xms, initial heap size. Kinglines -xmx, maximum heap size. -xx, new ratio, ratio of young to old generation. Teeps -xx, plus, use G1GC, use G1 garbage collector. 204. What is profiling? Answer. Process of analyzing application performance to identify bottlenecks and optimization opportunities. 205. What are popular Java profilers? Answer. JProfiler, commercial profiler with GUI. YourKit, commercial profiler. Visual VM, free profiler, included with JDK. JConsole basic monitoring tool. 206. What is caching and its types? Answer. Application level, in-memory caching, hashmap, acache. Database level, query result caching, distributed, Redis, Hazelcast, browser, HTTP caching. 207. What is the difference between acache and Redis? Answer. Acache, in-process cache, faster access, limited to single JVM. Redis, distributed cache, network overhead, shared across applications. 208. What is database connection pooling? Answer. Technique to reuse database connections, reducing connection creation overhead and improving performance. 209. What are popular connection pool libraries? Answer. Hikari CP, High Performance Connection Pool. Apache DBCP, Commons Database Connection Pool. C3P0, Mature Connection Pooling Library. 210. What is lazy loading, and when to use it? Answer. Loading data on demand rather than upfront, useful for large datasets or expensive operations. 211. What is batch processing? Answer. Processing multiple records together, instead of one by one, improving performance for large datasets. 212. What are microservices performance considerations? Answer. Service communication overhead, circuit breaker patterns, load balancing, caching strategies, database per service. 213. What is the difference between vertical and horizontal scaling? Answer. Vertical. Adding more power to existing machine. Horizontal. Adding more machines to pool of resources. 214. What is load balancing? Answer. Distributing incoming requests across multiple servers to prevent overload and ensure high availability. 215. What are different load balancing algorithms? Answer. Round robin, sequential distribution, least connections, route to server with fewest connections, weighted, based on server capacity, Q1 IP hash, based on client IP, advanced Java concepts. 216. What is reflection in Java? Answer. Ability to inspect and modify runtime behavior of applications, accessing classes, methods, and fields dynamically. 217. What are the uses of reflection? Answer. Frameworks, Spring, Hibernate, testing frameworks, IDE features, serialization, dynamic proxy creation. 218. What are annotations in Java? Answer. Metadata that provides information about code, processed at compile time or runtime. 219. How to create custom annotations? Answer. Using @interface keyword with retention policy and target specification. 220. What is generics in Java? Answer. Feature allowing type parameterization, providing type safety, and eliminating casting. 221. What are wildcards in generics? Answer. Question mark. Extends T, upper bounded wildcard. Question mark. Super T, lower bounded wildcard. Unbounded wildcard. 222. What is type erasure? Answer. Process where generic type information is removed at runtime, ensuring backward compatibility. 223. What is serialization? Answer. Process of converting object into byte stream for storage or transmission. 224. What is the difference between serializable and externalizable? Answer. Serializable. Automatic serialization uses default mechanism. Externalizable. Custom serialization, more control over process. 225. What is serial version UID? Answer. Unique identifier for serializable classes, used for version control during deserialization. 226. What are transient and volatile keywords? Answer. Transient. Excludes field from serialization. Volatile. Ensures variable changes are visible to all threads. 227. What is class loader? Answer. Component that loads classes into JVM, follows delegation model with hierarchy. 228. What are different types of class loaders? Answer. Bootstrap. Loads core Java classes. Extension. Loads extension classes. System/application. Loads application classes. 229. What is dynamic proxy? Answer. Runtime creation of proxy classes implementing interfaces, used in AOP and frameworks. 230. What is the difference between deep copy and shallow copy? Answer. Shallow. Copies object references, shared nested objects. Deep. Copies entire object graph, independent nested objects. 231. What is a mutable class and how to create one? Answer. Class whose state cannot be changed after creation. Requirements. Make class final. Make fields private and final. No setter methods. Return defensive copies. 232. What is the builder pattern implementation? Answer. Pattern for constructing complex objects step by step, often used with immutable classes. 233. What is method chaining? Answer. Technique where methods return the same object, allowing multiple method calls in sequence. 234. What is the difference between composition and inheritance? Answer. Composition has a relationship, more flexible. Inheritance is a relationship, tighter coupling. 235. What is covariance and contravariance? Answer. Covariance. Subtype can be used where supertype is expected. Contravariance. Supertype can be used where subtype is expected. Spring Boot Advanced. 236. What is Spring Boot Actuator? Answer. Production-ready features for monitoring and managing Spring Boot applications. 237. What are actuator endpoints? Answer. /health. Application health information. /metrics. Application metrics. /info. Application information. /env. Environment properties. 238. What is Spring Boot configuration? Answer. Externalized configuration using properties files, YAML, environment variables, or command line arguments. 239. What is configuration properties? Answer. Annotation for type-safe configuration properties binding to POJOs. 240. What is Spring Boot DevTools? Answer. Development time tools providing automatic restart, live reload, and enhanced development experience. 241. What is embedded server in Spring Boot? Answer. Web server, Tomcat, Jetty, Undertow. Embedded in application JR, eliminating need for external server. 242. How to create custom starter in Spring Boot? Answer. Create library with auto configuration, dependencies, and properties following naming convention. 243. What is enable auto configuration? Answer. Annotation that enables Spring Boot's auto configuration mechanism based on class path dependencies. 244. What is Spring Boot testing? Answer. Testing support with annotations like @SpringBootist, @WebMVCTest, @DataJPyTest for different testing scenarios. 245. What is mockbean? Answer. Annotation for creating mock beans in Spring application context for testing. 246. What is Spring Boot security configuration? Answer. Security configuration using Spring Security with auto configuration and customization options. 247. What is CORS in Spring Boot? Answer. Cross-origin resource sharing configuration for allowing requests from different domains. 248. What is Spring Boot logging? Answer. Logging configuration with support F.